Bom dia. Buenas tardes. Todo bom? Now I've exhausted all my Brazilian. And you're going to have to stand my poor English for the next 45 minutes or so. But I would like to thank you, and thank you so much for being with us today and over the next 2 days. I know that you are very busy people, you have big business, a lot of projects, and the fact you are here with us for this Innovation Summit means a lot to us. I want to thank you also for your business, for the partnership, and for the relationship, because at the end of the day, life is about people, and the people you meet, and the people you live with, and the people you create with. And life is about relationship, business is about relationship, and the fact we spend time together to speak about the future of our industries, companies, the world, and what we can do for the planet is also really important. So again, many, many thanks for being here for this Innovation Summit. You know, for me, it's really important to be here because I don't know about you, but it's my first time back in Brazil since COVID. And I was so frustrated with 2 years of small screens, small pictures, like people I couldn't see. There is nothing that beats being together, being able to work together, and to be creating solutions and technologies to respond to big problems of the world. And this, you can't do it on small screens. Really great to be together, and that's because you come here and you join us here. And why Belo Horizonte? Well, not because of the Pandy case, not because of the cachaça, but because, of course, this region has a tremendous reputation for mining, industry, competency. And when we look at everything which is happening here, those are the minerals, those are the activities which will enable the energy transition and the change of model that we need to operate in the next years. So I'm so excited to be here in Belo Horizonte because it's the first time I come here. So thank you for having me. Finally, I would like to tell you in the next 45 minutes, I'll try to share with you our vision of the future. How we see where we are today, try to formulate a diagnosis of the situation, speak about where we need to go in the future, and why it's so essential to be partners for a sustainable future. Because there is one thing in sustainability, that nobody wins alone, or nobody can make it alone. And the only way to make it happen, which is a big transition and the change of model, is that if we all align to the same objective and combine our forces. So let's dive into the subject. It's going to be a bit tedious, a few figures for an afternoon time, but the problem is complex. So let's summarize the situation. What we've seen in the past 3 years has been a massive acceleration. COVID has accelerated for all of us our literacy in digitalization. Then the combination of the energy and climate crisis has pushed everybody to sustainability and to electrification. And then the push to reshoring has moved everybody, well, to reshoring, and therefore there again, to more digitization and more local industrialization. Now, where are we in terms of climate change? Well, I believe that everybody who works in climate or energy knows that we have two challenges that we need to face. The first duty is to provide energy to 3 more billion people in the next coming 30 years. 800 million who don't have access today to electricity and energy, and we all know that access to energy is your passport to a decent life. So everybody deserves access to energy, plus the 2 more billion people who are going to join us, mostly in the new economies, fast developing economies in the next coming 30 years. Plus 3 billion people. And at the same time, we are not at all on the right trajectory in terms of carbon emission. You see that red line, which goes to the sky, this is where emissions go if we don't change our business model. I wouldn't say our business model, our energy model. The way we consume energy, the way we produce energy. And the green line is what allows us to come back to a temperature increase of 1.5 degrees, which is a bare minimum to come back to a sort of normal. And the gap between the two can be resolved only in one manner. Decarbonization of fossil fuel, because fossil fuel are here to stay all over the transition, and they will stay probably for a long time, all over. So we need to decarbonize those industries as much as we can. The second big thing is electrification. On the electrification, everybody speaks about electricity, but electricity is only 20% of the energy the world consumes today, and it's the case also in Brazil. So when we say in Brazil we have green electricity, that solves 20% of the case, that doesn't solve 80% of the problem, which has all the usage of fossil energy. And be prepared here for a big transition, because electricity is 20% of what we do. It's going to be 40 to 60% in 30 years. So it's a huge transition that we have to go through. And finally, a big portion will be with a big unsung hero of the energy transition, which is energy efficiency. Because at the end of the day, you can speak about everything, but the cheapest, the fastest, and the greenest source of energy is the one we don't consume. So a big energy transition that needs not a choice between those. It's the end of all of this. We need to do those three things together. What does it mean in terms of change? Actually, the change is profound. If you summarize somewhere, what we have to do is to accelerate the retrofits, because most of what has been built so far, buildings, plants, cities, is not sustainable. I'm going to take one example, which is here, which is Europe. Developed country, slow economy. 75% of the buildings in Europe are not net zero compliant. Today, we retrofit in Europe 0.5% of buildings every year. So if we want to be net zero, it's going to take at least 150 years. I personally have a problem with 150 years. First, it doesn't correspond to the objective of being net zero in 2050. And second problem, it's far beyond my life expectancy. So the issue here is to go from 150 years to 15 years, which is to multiply by 10 the retrofit of what we have. The second thing to integrate is that we're going to have a massive explosion of population in many places. And in those places, we have to try to build as close as possible to net zero today, because anything that we build which is not net zero will be emitting for a long time. And the figures are huge. I just isolated here the figures of Africa and India. Africa and India will build in the next 30 years as many buildings as there are today in China and Europe. So be prepared in the next 30 years to multiply the quantity of buildings in the world, or to increase by 50%. So we need to see things very differently if we don't want to run into that red curve, and if we want to go to that green curve. So now, let's make a pause, right? Let's make a pause from the world of energy. Because clearly, this is a challenge that today seems quite unsurmountable. And let's go into another world. I rewind in the 90s, 1990. The big objective of the world at that time was to give people communication, telecommunication. And in 1990, we were 5 billion people on Earth. And at that time, only 10% of the people had access to a telecommunication line. That is only 30 years ago. Fast forward, today, we are 8 billion people on Earth, and most of the people, more than 90% of the people, have a telephone, and actually many people have a smartphone. How did we accomplish that miracle to go from that 10% to that 90% on a fast-growing population in 30 years? The answer is very simple. We changed technology. We went from landlines to wireless, which made the deployment immediately easier and faster. You didn't have the link of the cable to deploy. And we changed the phone, which was only for phone calls, and we built the phone as a repository of our life. So now with your phone, you can hail a Uber, you can order food, you can meet people when there is a COVID pandemic, you can do everything. So the phone has become much more than a phone. So now let's go back to energy. We are stuck with our present paradigm. But what we see in the future is a world where there's going to be two inflection points. The first point is the digital inflection. And you'll tell me 30 years already of digital, that's not an inflection. What we've been through was the episode 1 of the internet of people, the way we live together, the way we work together. And it has changed everything, social networks, dating, meeting, everything. It has completely changed our life. We just started the episode 2 of the internet. On the episode 2 of the internet is the Internet of Things. Things which are connected, which generates big data. Big data can be then used by artificial intelligence to optimize everything and optimize a number of systems that before were not connected to each other. Think, for instance, about the energy. For the first time, everything can be connected from anything that produces energy to everything which consumes energy and can be optimized. The second one is electrification. So today a world which is 20% electric, in the next coming 30 years going to be 40 to 60%, so multiply by 2, multiply by 3. On one would say electricity is an old technology, it's not the same. It's going to be decentralized for a large part, it's going to be decarbonized, and it's going to be completely connected. So when you put those two transitions, you have the same factors of disruption you had in the phone industry 30 years ago. But now, when we think about what happened in our life around our phone, you could argue, like, why didn't we invent Uber, or why didn't we invent Facebook 20 years before? And there is only one reason behind that, is that we, human beings, are slow to embrace change and new technology. So going into that transition and that revolution is basically in our hands, in the way we design, in the way we operate, in the way we manage things together, and in the way we partner to operate this revolution. So people, when we speak about climate change, very often we say, well, we are working on innovation for the future, but you've seen the curves. It's not for tomorrow. It has to happen now, because there is urgency, and we already see the effects everywhere. 70% of CO2 emissions can be removed today with existing technology. So it's just a question of deployment. And it goes with actually one priority, which is energy efficiency, saving, smart homes, smart buildings, smart manufacturing, smart cities, electrification, because electrification is the only way to remove carbon. If you eliminate combustion, then you eliminate carbon. The most popular, the most fashionable energy transition that everybody talks about is cars, because everybody is passionate about cars. But there is even more stakes behind heat pumps, which are substituting gas boilers today around the world. Storage opens a number of doors also for all of us to be producing our own energy. And finally, the other part of the equation is decarbonizing the generation of electricity and of energy, because all of us can become producers of energy at the same time we consume energy. And as we speak at Schneider, we are doing around the world a number of microgrids. Would it be on homes, buildings, on industrial campus, where people are taking in charge, are taking responsibility over the decarbonization of their energy supply. Here in South America, there is a unique context somewhere on a unique responsibility. I won't dwell on that, because you know what, on Latin America, you know much better, right? But think about it, and especially what happened last year in Ukraine and Russia, a lot of food responsibility on the supply chains, which is generating there again needs of change of model. A lot of minerals which are absolutely critical to the energy transition are extracted here. And 40% of the world biodiversity residing here. And you see on the COP that will take place in Manaus soon, that will draw all the limelight on you, on Earth, here on this continent. But when we speak about sustainability, everybody thinks about the Amazonas, and everybody thinks about Latin America. And when you look at the assets of Brazil, and you think about a world which is 2 to 3 times more electric, there is almost no other country that can boast an electricity which is 90% green. There is probably Norway, otherwise, and I would immodestly say France, because of nuclear and hydro. But this is a tremendous asset at a time when the world is becoming all electric. So what we've been working with you over the past 20 years is integration, is our solution for sustainability, based on digital for efficiency and circularity, which is the only way to organize that rotation of resources across the chain, on electrification for decarbonization, which depicts a world that can be smart and green. And what we want to do here at Schneider, and this is the way we defined our purpose 20 years ago, is to say, we want to be your partner in this journey of combined electrification, digitalization for efficiency and sustainability. And at Schneider, we call it Life is On, because access to energy is what creates your access to a better life. And at the same time, we need to work on our carbon emission, because otherwise there will be no good life for anybody on Earth. And our experience is that the only way to become more efficient is to work on a superior integration. And you know us, because if you are in this room, it's because you know Schneider, but we've worked on 5 integration. The first one is the integration of energy and process, because you can't work on the efficiency of your energy if you don't tweak or if you don't act on your process. You can't manage the two worlds in separate silos. The second one, for those who remember those times, in 1997, the invention of transparent factory, every object should be connected and should have a twin on the cloud, so that we can optimize, based on the data coming up from all of those objects, we can optimize the entirety of the system. The third one is the integration of the life cycle. How many losses appear today or happen today when we go from the design to the build, from the build to the operation, from the operation to the maintenance, from the maintenance to the circular recycling of everything? There is a lot of losses. One digital twin across the cycle. The fourth integration is to go from the old way of managing companies, side by side, building by building, plant by plant, on integrating everything on a unified operating center, so that you can aggregate or consolidate all your consumption of resources, all your consumption of energy. You can benchmark in real time the performance of what you do. You can have data, you can have knowledge, you can know what is happening, so that really you can take action. And finally, when you've worked on the demand, is making sure through digital instruments that you connect to the cheapest, the greenest, and the best source of supply to what you are doing. 5 integrations for a higher level of efficiency and therefore a higher level of sustainability. And we've been working on that, and you're going to see a lot of that next door in the marketplace. But the driving logic was here is to say, our job at Schneider is to help you connect the physical world to the digital twin, to the digital world. And to do that, you need people who understand digital, but you need people on the ground. You need our service, we need our partners to go together and make that connection on the ground, that service on the ground, so that it's not just a digital space that has no use, it's not toys, it's not whistles, but it's something which corresponds to reality and can be entertained with a deep knowledge of verticals. So that architecture of IoT, that control, that connects the physical to the digital is EcoStruxure. Then, one data. And when you speak about your application, because you manage mission-critical applications where you can't afford to have an outage, you can't afford to have an accident. When you manage a grid, when you manage a data center, when you manage a mine, you are talking about safety. You are talking about perfect reliability. Here, to manage those kind of data, it's not usual data. It's data which is contextualized. It's data which is time-stamped. It's data which is federated. It's data that correlates this control with this pump, with this system, with this part of the process, because otherwise it's unusable. And we've been working 20 years to build that repository of data, which is using more, I would say, general platforms like Amazon or Microsoft, but which is creating that necessary layer to make the data for your application completely usable. One digital twin, of course, and one customer experience. Because in this world, you need to integrate into one repository the process, the energy, the build. If you modify the size of the machine, guess what? It changes the dimensioning of the power distribution, changes the size of the room, and you don't want to do that like we do it today on Excel spreadsheets or back to the drawing board. So the full integration of this into one thing, and there's been a lot of buzz recently about the metaverse. I'm not sure it's very useful in the consumer's life, but I know it's very useful in the life of our companies and the life of our customers, because we've been doing the metaverse where you can really work in the digital space, train your operators, bring the information of augmented reality goggles now for some time. The metaverse in industry is really important. So I'm going to fly over that because then you're going to have plenty of more details on the other side. IoT architecture, EcoStruxure. Seamless connection between products, local controls on premise, on generation of data, on analytics, on AI, on all aspects. AI at every level. On the products to react fast with no latency, with data residency, with low energy consumption. AI on the control to react fast and optimize, on AI on the huge amount of data that you accumulate at a higher level. Then the data hub. The data hub, I already spoke about it. That allows you to connect into one repository all your facilities, plants, data centers, IT, infrastructure, buildings, and more so to unleash collaboration of all your stakeholders, all the people who can improve your company into one gigantic collaboration mass that was not existing before. So speak about them. Integrators, your own IT developers who now have the data on which they can work. Give access to the same data to plant facility managers, but also to the operators on the field who can know where they can work, what's going wrong. You can give access to your suppliers. At Schneider, we have some factories where we give access to our, let's say, plastic suppliers directly to the machine because they help us improve the mix of what we are doing. To utilities, to supply you the best source of energy in real time. And finally, keep using your software and application. You can use analytics, AI modules of Schneider, but you can use anybody else because all of that infrastructure is completely agnostic and completely open. It can connect to any competitor system and aggregate the data of any competitor system, and it can welcome anybody, integrators, developers on this ecosystem. Finally, well understand that the key of efficiency is integrating the whole life cycle of those installations, from the time it's designed, to the time it's built, to the time it's operated. Today, what we see at Schneider is that 30% in average of the cost of construction is reconstruction. Because there is no digital model and people of different origins arriving on the work site at the same time, they don't know with which tool, and when you come prepared, unconnected, then it increases a lot the efficiency. Plus, it increases the safety for operators, plus it increases the reliability of everything we do. So one data hub, one life cycle across process, power, and build for a total optimization. And now it's a lot of talk, so I would like that we call a video to speak about what is the enterprise metaverse.
Everyone's talking about the metaverse, but what does it really mean? Let's play What If. We'll start. What if this metaverse could bring power, process, and building data together in one location? One kind of data for the whole of your company, for professionals and industry. What if you could see your data working in real time, all the time? What if all the data you needed from your enterprise systems came alive in the cloud? What if, before you did anything in the real world, you could build a digital twin and predict outcomes? Not just that, a process twin, an energy twin, an electrical twin, to design, build, operate, and maintain. And what if the operational cycle was a closed loop, where what we learn from one phase lets us improve the next, and the next, and the next, making you more efficient and sustainable across domains? How about this? What if people could always be trained virtually? It would be safer. They could access it and collaborate from anywhere, and they could learn to be prepared for any possibility. What if you could pick and choose the specific services and expert support you need when you need it, and just pay as you go? What we're saying is, what if there was one experience, one open platform for all, where you could connect all of your devices and IoT systems to unlock limitless potential for power, buildings, industry, and infrastructure? Potential that can transform businesses and even help transform the world. Welcome to the Enterprise Metaverse.
Speaks better, right? So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to go really fast, but Schneider is a very focused company. So we try to be good at what we do, and you have to challenge us in permanence so that we get better. But we serve 4 markets. We serve industry, we serve infrastructure, we say cities, we serve data centers, and we serve building. And I would say 5 because in the middle of all this there is a grid, which is a big, we call it the matrix here, right? Which is a big orchestrator of the way we deal with energy and which has to conduct the connecting points between all of this. So I'm going to fly over a certain number of examples because, well, they show better what some people do with that, and I think they're going to be a good exemplification of what digitization brings. You start with efficiency, and you get plenty of collateral benefits because things are connected, things are twinned in the digital space. So that's a generic thing of the 5 integration to industry with gains in productivity, in energy efficiency, in quality, in reliability, thanks to asset performance management. And let's take the example of Granado, which is a very well-known company. Start with production efficiency, 10 to 15% by the total integration, full traceability on the components, which is absolutely necessary when you deal in such a sector as beauty and cosmetics, and then a future-proof solutions as more factories and more capabilities are built. Changing continent and going to ADNOC, Abu Dhabi, which is one of the largest and most modern oil and gas companies in the world, where the next COP28 will take place. We have been the partner of ADNOC for a long time. Connection of everything through a repository which is called Panorama. This screen is 50 meters large and 10 meters high, and you can double-click on anything, from an installation to the latest pump, to the latest element of it. 60 to 100 million of savings, thanks to that, on maintenance, on predictive maintenance, outages, and so on, optimization of the full system. 10 million tags monitored, and we keep going, connecting more things into that repository and deploying more AI on it. Ely, going to China, one of the largest food companies, where it's about efficiency, energy, and sustainability, because China is facing and has taken very seriously the challenge of being more sustainable. Saint-Gobain, well known here, but this is Saint-Gobain North America, connecting their plants for energy, 14% in reduction in utility costs, 50 million of reduction in energy costs to date in North America. So sustainability at the end, if you make it simple, it's not only about saving the world on the duty to our children, it's also chasing waste. And chasing waste as an industrial is basically what we've always been doing in our factories. And chasing waste is making money and being more competitive. And very often economy and ecology are actually going very well together. On 140 sites in one single platform. So when you speak about your site based on data, you can really compare them and take the best practices. Mining. We're in Minas Gerais. I don't have to mention that this is a very important activity for the world. Efficiency, value chain efficiency, emission reduction, productivity, safety. Safety is a big, big ticket item in mining. And here, of course, one of the biggest and most reputed companies in the world, Vale, with which we work on both energy, on process, efficiency. When we deploy the system, 12 million over 3 months of savings, and keeps going. Now it's for Vale to manage. Integration with other software for data checking, because the system is open, and what is generated in our system can feed other system, on real-time data and dashboard to work on the efficiency of everything. Won't dwell on that one. That's South Africa. We changed continent again. Big mining country also. And there it's about making it easy and shared for everything about reporting. It's data quality, which was coming from everywhere, which is now structured to be utilized, and double-digit growth in productivity. Now let's move to data centers. You might not know it, but data centers is one of the most complicated places for managing energy. First, it's the highest density on Earth of energy per square foot. And second, you have to follow computing. So when you have a surge in computing, you have to create or to support by a surge in energy. And this is in a millisecond. Schneider is by far the largest supplier of energy solutions to data center. A large part of the clicks you have are powered by us. And this is a place which is ahead of many other sectors because, of course, naturally it's electric and naturally it's very digital. So a few examples. Telecentro here, which is in Argentina, where the deployment of the whole architectures allows cost savings and allows also to make sure that there is no outage and no loss of load. And here, this is in Sweden, a PUE, and people who are professionals of data center remember that 15 years ago, the PUE, which is somewhere the energy ratio, the efficiency for a data center was around 2 to 3. Now on such a data center, we are at 1.15, which shows that we are not wasting at all energy between your click and the computing on the server. And then buildings. And buildings carry a huge responsibility because they are responsible of 40% of the carbon emissions in the world. And the International Energy Agency says that by far they are the most inefficient part of our environment. And buildings are barely digitized. Here there is written that 10% of South American buildings have BMS system. You are speaking about large buildings. I think in most of the places, and I would dare to say this is a very polite estimation, because if you take, I would say France, my country of origin, less than 6% of buildings are smart buildings. So and when you apply intelligence to a building, you save 30% of energy. So there is a lot of space for improvement of efficiency. Take a few examples. We are the partner of Blackstone, which is a large owner of buildings in the US. We partner together so that they get a clear picture of the resources and the energy they consume in their hundreds of buildings in North America and in the world. Same thing here, what we do on Changing Continent with Wire in China, where we've connected all of their buildings, aggregated the data, and provided in actually a very short time 20 to 30% energy saving on their existing buildings. That is less cost. That's not only less carbon, it's a lot more efficiency. And I believe that all of us as companies, or at least Schneider, when we choose a building, to live in a building, we look at the performance of the building in efficiency because we have decided to go for sustainability like 4,000 companies today in the world. So that's it. I didn't put here, in those applications, a very large business of Schneider, which are smart grids. And I'm happy to say we do a lot here in Brazil, and we have actually signed and officialized a project today, another one. But smart grids are the necessary link between all of those elements. And it's going to be very difficult to drive optimization of the system if the grid is not smart. So really happy that Brazil is really moving fast into that direction. So now let's speak about the second topic where we partner with all of our customers. And this is about sustainability. And for Schneider, it means two things. First, we want to be leading ESG by example. And second, partnering with our customers to improve their performance. So we've decided 10 years ago to be an impact company. And I won't go into each and every detail, but it means that ESG and the strategy and the purpose of Schneider are completely integrated. We integrate our mission, our strategy, our vision are completely aligned with sustainability so that we pivoted the company so that everything we do, actually today 73% of what we do is contributing to sustainability. It goes with all our stakeholders in all dimensions of ESG, and it's deeply ingrained in the culture on all the incentive systems, all the discussions within our company. And this engagement that we have is multi-stakeholder. So we have taken ourselves strong commitments, net zero on scope 1 and 2 by 2030, net zero including our suppliers and customers by 2050, which is huge because Schneider today, 99% of our carbon footprint are with our suppliers or with our customers. So there is no way we become net zero if we don't partner very closely with you all. Then we help 1,000 of our most strategic suppliers to cut their carbon emission by a factor of 2 in the next 3 years. We help our customers in average to save 100 million tons a year in carbon. We are helping communities who don't have access to energy. Here in Brazil, we have an action in the Amazonas, bringing clean energy to 50 million people by 2025, and doing that, training 1 million people to the new technologies of energy to make that possible. And finally, while Schneider has done pretty well in terms of investors, because we offer a case where by 2025 we want 80% of our revenue to be green revenue. Today, Schneider is one of the top 3 companies in the world most invested by ESG funds, which we are very proud of, but which has certainly driven a lot of attention and a lot of capacity to invest in technologies. Now, this for us is what we apply to ourselves. And we have 200 factories in the world, we have people in multiple buildings, and based on this experience, on our technologies, we engage today as we speak with 40% of the Fortune 500 companies, in the world as their sustainability partner. And everything when we go in sustainability is about first digitizing. Digitizing is necessary because if you don't digitize, you don't know where you waste, you don't know where you consume, you don't know what to do. So digital is the first step. Then we strategize with our customers, and then customers decide where they want to use us to decarbonize, or they can be using other people. But everything we do as consulting on digitization is just to help our customers to understand where the problems are. And then the customers decide where to do the interventions. We have an advantage here is that we are not only doctors. We don't only tell you what you should be doing. We operate 200 factories. We operate 100 distribution centers. We know what it is to operate industries. We work on identified verticals. We know your applications, and we are able, with services, with integration, with our network of partners, to go together with you and provide you solutions. Then, those are a few examples of interesting things we've done. Walmart has asked us to engage with their suppliers to save 1 gigaton of carbon. The pharmaceutical industry has asked us and their competitors to work with their suppliers so that everybody benefits of the decarbonization of their suppliers, and already spoke about what we do with our own suppliers. I wanted to share one thing as I'm approaching the end of my introduction to those 2 days. 2 weeks ago, we hosted in Paris the yearly Congress about energy efficiency. And that was organized by the International Energy Agency. So you had half of the room which was governments, half of the room that was technology, companies, and actually quite a lot of NGOs within them. And after 2 days of work, and there were many workshops mixing all of those diverse origins, we came with the 10 recommendations to multiply by 10 the speed of retrofit of the world we live in. And you see that those recommendations, which are not coming from Schneider, they are coming from those 700 people who work together on the subjects, from very different walks of life, with very different angles. It starts by measuring, knowing what you do. It starts also by knowing what the others do, because if you've done something good, maybe I can apply it to me and I can deploy it in my place. It goes with a lot of training and skilling, because we need many people to work on that. It goes through the way we look at projects, TCO, rather than pure cost optimization. It goes about some financing gap, but those are small financing for energy efficiency. It goes with cooperation with government, simplifying the regulation and putting the regulation in sync with new technologies, not with the old world. It goes with a grid that needs to be smart and to be reinforced, because if you are electrical and you want to source green energy, you need a grid to make it possible. And then finally, the recommendation was use existing tech and build net zero. Those are 10. I encourage you to go to the site of IEA. This is detailed. This is not coming from us. This is teamwork. And this is why, at the end, we call this conference Partners for Sustainability, because if you think about it, so deeply, the DNA of Schneider is about partnership at every level. We supply technology. We are a technology company, but we work every day with end users, with integrators, panel builders, contractors, programmers, developers who build solutions on our technology. Climate change and the energy transition doesn't know geopolitics. Climate change happens, whatever it takes, across the border. Decarbonization doesn't know the border of a company. 99% of the carbon footprint of Schneider is with our suppliers and our customers. We need to work together if we want to bring Schneider to net zero. And finally, climate change has no patience. It's already on the way, and we need to go to net zero to the horizon of 2050 to 2060, according to the countries. So it's time to partner. It's time to partner for digitalization and for efficiency. I'm really looking forward to working together, dialoguing, and talking together for the next coming 2 days. Again, thank you very much for being here. Obrigado.